Hello and welcome. Today we're going to do a major suspension refresh on the old E34. The car is going to get two new front control arms, new drop links at the front, new dampers front and back, bump stops and dust covers, new dock links at the back, both front and rear damper top mounts. We might even change the steering rods because I'd prefer having the old ones on there since I can't get a date for an alignment before the next technical inspection. So that's probably going to affect the alignment too much, and then I can fail because the alignment is not in spec. So yeah, we'll have to figure with that. I now have the car set up in jack stands, and at the rear I have it on ramps. We're going to start at the front. I've just devised a plan on how I'm going to do this. I'm going to take off the brake caliper and the rotor from the hub. Then I'm just going to hook up the brake caliper to this point or somewhere else. Then I'm going to take off both torsion rods on both sides, and then I'm just going to undo the three nuts that hold the damper in at the top. And then I'm going to take out the two control arms, and then everything should just drop down. I'm just going to do everything on the floor. First I'm going to take out the ABS sensor, twist it, and then it should just slide out. When you have it out, just pull on it, there's no clip. Already cut myself, off to a great start. On E34s, there's three nuts under here for the strut part. We're going to loosen these now. The third one is a bit hidden and can only be accessed once the whole hub is turned in a specific direction. I finally have the tools. Unfortunately, my local hardware store did no longer have tools like this in stock, so I had to order a set off of Scamazon. Now that that stuff has finally arrived, we can proceed to pressing out all the ball joints. Now I'm going to take out the two other bolts from the bottom. We'll also need to undo the stabilizing bar. Finally! Woo! Also, I can't wait for the day that I get a lift, because this is just heaps easier when you can do it from under the car and not just have to navigate around all these stupid arms, but I'll take it any day. Now let's check again if everything at the bottom is disconnected. Steering rod, loose. Three bolts at the bottom, undone. ABS sensor, done. Brake calipers unchecked. Drop link is loose. Now we just need to undo the three bolts on the top side. Now we can separate the whole strut assembly from the bottom part just with a regular screwdriver and a bit of prying. There are special slots, just pry upwards on it. Completely loose. And now the only thing holding it up is the tension from the bushing on the control arms. The major drawback of this design is that it is quite heavy because it has the whole wheel bearing and everything attached to it. Make sure you don't pinch the ABS sensors. I've not checked the price, but I would assume that they have gotten quite pricey. The drop links were completely done. The rubber boots have completely separated. You can feel a bit of play on the inside. The top part is still okay-ish, it keeps tension, but not nearly as much as new ones do. The other side was definitely worse. I've already done that on camera. Unfortunately, I noticed a very negative thing that I'll just discuss with you guys right now. These are the new shocks, these are the old ones, and when we now look at the similarities, well, they all have the same length, but mine is a bit longer. Weird. Well, that wouldn't make too much of a difference since the place where it rests is the same length. And now we come to the actual issue. This one measures in at 16 and this one measures in at 14. So the new one is effectively 2 millimeters larger, and now the top mounts do not fit. But I ordered this one with the part number that I found on real OEM for the VIN of my car. So, since these are no longer OEM, somebody has definitely been in there and took the wrong shocks and the wrong top mounts. These are the new top mounts I bought, and there's also another version of that is extremely flat. I'll post a picture right there. And yeah, these don't fit the new shocks, but they fit the old ones without issue. So somebody, in my opinion, took the wrong shocks and the wrong top mounts. That explains why the car sits like a bus at the front, because it's just way too high. I think literally with the new mounts it's gonna sit 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters lower, so I look forward to that. Unfortunately, this is a major hiccup and now I have to wait for new top mounts. I actually thought about lowering the car, but now that I know that the new top mounts will probably lower it 1 centimeter or so, I think it's gonna look a tiny bit better, and I want to keep the car stock, so that's gonna stay. These 22mm nuts on top and bottom are really hard to get off, so that's supposed to be at least 3 ugadugas. That went well, and now the bottom one. The funny thing is, I only own cheap tools because right now I'm kind of broke, but oh well. This air hammer works like a treat. It's so nice. And that whole thing came for free with my air compressor. I got like an air hammer, an air chisel, air grinder, air hammer, everything for really cheap. It was a really great deal back then. In case you didn't know, I'm not supposed to be able to move this thing like 50 centimeters just with my arm. It's completely dead. Even this part has no resistance whatsoever and it jumps back to the middle. This one also has no resistance whatsoever. The chassis bushing is still in a lot better condition, but these are a lot stiffer than the back one. But the ball joint is completely done, no resistance whatsoever. Good thing we're doing this. Now we're going to take out the control arms. The front has 19mm bolts and the rear has 22mm bolts. Don't forget that there's washers. This one even had significant amount of play in the ball joint, which I didn't notice, but I can hear it. Listen, I'm going to put it near the microphone. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's definitely play in there. The rubber bushing here was still fine, and I think this was actually the first one since it still has the original BMW logos on there. And usually people don't go for BMW parts when doing this. Same on this side. Tons of play, jumps back, no resistance whatsoever. And at the other end, that was definitely the worst I've ever seen. I can inflict great amount of play just with the movement of my wrist. And even though it's not really visible on camera, the rubber is completely split right there. On the back side as well, there it's split completely. I can go in there with the screwdriver. See? That was completely split. Well, it was definitely due for change. Here we just need to remove the steering rod. Now we just need to match the length of the new one to the old one, because this affects the alignment. I've already checked and both parts have the same length from the non-adjustable piece. So we can measure the distance from the end of the non-adjustable piece to the middle of the ball joint on the old one and then match it to the new one. On this one end is exactly 3.5 centimeters. Now repeat this on the other side. Now we can install this with 2 new self-locking nuts. This is now really hard and stiff to move, and this is definitely better than the old stuff that we had on there. Now we're going to install the 2 control arms and the centerpiece. I gave this a good clean. I didn't feel like it was necessary to de-rust it and delay the project even further, so I just gave it a good clean and wetted it in some oil, and then it's good. We're going to install the big one from the rear first. This one is so much firmer than the old one, and there's not near as much play as there was, so good upgrade definitely. Now we can start with the torquing of the ball joints. I've already written out all of the torque specs, but if you want to do this on your own, just go and look at them, because I'm not 100% sure of these. I'll have to do some more research and then conclude if they're correct or not, and then retorque them or just let them be if they are correct. If my research was correct, the steering rod gets 37 inside and out. And the 2 ball joints from the control arm get 93 newtons. Aye, that was tight. 93 as well. Now that there is a lot less play in the suspension system, I think it's gonna make the car handle a lot better. Now I'm gonna take off the old drop link. This is a bit tricky since there's not a lot of space and I can't get my ratchet on there, so I have this weird extension, and it's easy to slip off, so I need to pay attention to not pinch the cable. Now comes the risky part, deploying the spring compressors. And now an important safety precaution: don't do it with an air hammer. After you've compressed the spring, you can take off this cap with a screwdriver. And then there's a size 22. Also, don't do it with an air hammer. Throw away the bomb. Suffice to say, this was no longer absorbing any bumps. And now we have a dilemma, because on the other side this was not nearly as corroded and rusty. So that's going to be an issue. This damper is completely done. Just look at this. This was very much done. There's oil everywhere. God damn! Wow! There's literally oil seeping out of the damper. Like, this was completely dead to an extent I've never seen, actually. Completely failed. Tasty! I think there's no contradicting that this was definitely the reason why the poor E34 was handling so bad. I've never seen a shock where the seal went that bad, and these are no-name shocks, so not good as well. But yeah, right now, car got a good upgrade just with the shocks. Now we can continue with the installation of the shock itself. In case you're wondering, I gave this thing a good clean with brake clean on the inside, and I reopened the drain here because there was a rock stuck. I've put some copper grease on there so it doesn't rust as hard. Because this is conical, I had to adapt this piece and grind it open like 1.5 millimeters. So this now fits really tight. The spring is still sitting in the correct position on the spring pads. Now we can proceed with the installation of the sway bar link, and then the whole strut assembly can go back on the car. I'm using a second jack at the bottom to apply upwards pressure. Once the top bolts are tight, we can take off pressure from the jack. Now that the sway bar is reinstalled, everything goes back together in reverse order. Now we're going to do the rear of the car, and we're going to start with the dog bones. And these are the dog bones that we'll be changing. These are really easy to change. You don't need to jack up the car, just put it on ramps or just lie underneath it. The outer one is just a regular bolt and can be removed really easily. And then the inner one, you have to put a 22mm spanner on top on the nut, and then you can turn out the bolt, which is also a 22 on both sides. Now we're going to do the dampers at the rear. To do this, we have to undo the top mounts. The top mount is sitting somewhere around there, so we have to undo the rear bench, the back seats, the headrests, then the whole rear tray, and then we can finally access the top mounts. On E34s, that's a bit like terrible because you have to remove a lot of stuff, but we'll get it sorted. There's two 10mm right here to remove everything. Then two more plastic ones in each corner at the bottom. Now we can undo the seat belts, which is a size 17. Now we can take off these plastic covers, just pull on them, but gently. Just pull up on the sleeve. And now you can see the plastic tabs. Turn it counterclockwise. And it's out. And then you can pull out the whole rear seat. Then you can just remove all these little clips that are along the parcel shelf. Upwards and then to the front of the car. If you now pull up on this like cover or insulation, there's the top mount, and then there's one nut here, and one nut here. All 13mm. The whole insulation is crumbling away, so yeah, it's going to be a bit destroyed, but can't do anything about it. Now we can take off the wheels. Then you just have to undo the main 22mm bolt at the bottom of the shock. Now I'm just going to give these a little tap, and then they usually just fall out. Also, the old bump stop definitely wasn't stopping any bumps. It's just crumbling away, like dead, completely dead. The rubber is rusted to the damper. Unfortunately, the rubber mounting pad is already mangled, but I can't wait for a new one since I'm already really late, as you can tell by the upload schedule. I'm really sorry, but my parts provider, Autodoc, do not order from them. They are never on time. They exchange parts and give you a different make than you actually ordered so that they can maximize their profits. Really, don't order from them. I'm heavily disappointed, but actually I don't really have an alternative, so I just keep using them. I know that's bad, but what am I supposed to do? Also, these dampers, not returning, completely dead, no function. I think these are still the original dampers, because even though they're blue, they have a BMW logo engraved, and the name is Burger, which I think was the OEM delivery company for the E34 shocks. Correct me if I'm wrong. For the new dampers, I choose TRW or TRW. This brand still produces in Germany, if I'm correct, and should be of good quality compared to the other stuff that's around right now. I'll just mount these in and then fasten them at the top and then turn the bottom so that I can install the big bolt. Just gonna push down on it till I find the thread. Doing the dampers on the E34 at the rear is a bit horrible, but it's easily manageable if you're a bit stubborn like I am. I'm not gonna tighten it all the way, just hand tight, and then the torque is done with the car on the ground and the bushings preloaded. Thank you so much for watching. This video is 1 week late, so I'm gonna cut it a bit short and do the talking off camera. Sorry for that. If you've just found this channel, please consider subscribing for better videos in the future. And if you've been following this channel for a while now, thanks a lot as well. Also, I've got 2 or 3 other videos in the making, so this was a bit of a struggle to manage, but if you look closely, there's a little sneak peek, there's a little sneak peek, there's a little sneak peek, and another sneak peek for something I haven't shown on the channel. I still have a lot to do, so enjoy your weekend and see you in the next one. Bye!